So tonight we're going to launch our lecture from a foundational point that's an accepted piece of science. And it's not going to be a science lecture, so don't worry. There's not going to be a test afterwards. Don't worry about that either. The only test will be in life itself, right? There's the written test, and then there's the driving test itself with how we absorb and put into practice the things that we're going to speak about. And there's a notion that was launched by the icon of Jewish intellectualism, and he had actually discovered also and appreciated by the end of his life that there must be a creator. He said, God doesn't play dice with the universe. There's none other than, everybody knows Einstein had floated an idea, E equals MC squared. Right? What is E equals MC squared? What's that all about? Okay, I'm not going to pretend to know everything about science, but in Einstein's equation, E equals energy. Right? If you take a piece of an object, any object, there's a certain amount of energy inside. How much energy is inside of that object? So to figure out and to reckon how much is invested in any piece of object, you have to know, first of all, what's the size of the object, or what's the mass? That's the density, or how much of the stuff is there? That's mass. So E equals M times, okay, how we came to this, I don't know, C squared. What is C squared? C is the speed of light squared times the speed of light. What's the speed of light? It's 186,000 miles a second. The Earth is approximately 24,000 miles around. So 1 Mississippi. That's how we used to count in high school, playing, in the time that it takes to beat for the clock to move once, that's more than 6 times, almost 7 times around the Earth, okay, which is 24,000 miles around. That's pretty fast. That's lightning fast. So if you want to know how much energy is invested into the smallest particles of life, so we need to understand how much of the stuff there is, and then multiply it by the speed of light, and that's how much energy can be found, and that's how we measure the energy which is found in a certain object. Like any other equation, it works the other way. If we want to know, if we want to invest energy, so we want to know how much energy to invest to create a certain amount of mass, so that's how much energy has to be invested. Okay, so fine. What does that have to do with relationships? Okay, this is not a science lecture. The Gemara in Brachas tells us there's a notion that Malka da'ara ka Malka da'rakia. Just like there's a king here on the earth. There can be an earthly king. There can be there's an earthly Hashem. There's a father on earth. There's a father in heaven. Things that we experience here on earth are a reflection of heavenly principles also. Malka da'ara ka Malka da'rakia. So if there's a principle even in math or science or physics which is true here on earth, so it's a truth also in the heavens as well. And it's a true in the heavens, then it has a reflection here and it manifests itself here on the earth. And with that, I would like to help to demonstrate that here's a little handle that we can hold on to try to get insight into how to invest the energy that we have in our lives. We have a limited amount of energy in order to get the most out of our relationships. The assemblyman was speaking about investment banking for a moment. He had a career in investment banking. Investment banking, how do you invest maximally and optimally in order to get the most out? We only have a certain amount of energy. So how do we put ourselves invest ourselves in such a way that we're going to get the best type of relationship, guaranteed to get the best type of relationship? Well, I'm willing to say it like that. And here we go. So what does E equals MC squared stand for, right? So we have to plug in. We'll go out. We'll take our microphone. We'll do a man in the street interview, and we'll ask him. We have a formula for relationship that's called E equals MC squared. What does E equal? What does M equal? What does C equal? So you might get answers walking around in the street. We'll go into the pizza shop. We'll go down the block. We'll catch somebody sitting in a car. And we'll excuse me. Excuse me, excuse me, what is E equals MC squared, and if we can get into the eardrums, fine. So we might hear something like E, excitement, equals money, right? Times C squared, credit card, something like that, yeah? There we go. How are we doing so far, yeah? There we go. Or E, entertainment, equals muscles, right? Times cuteness, car. Okay, also something, we'll put those two things together. See, so we got our E, we got our M, we got our C, we wrap it all together, and that's what it's all about. Yeah, if we walk out in the street. But I think when people walked into Beit Gabriel, they're expecting maybe something different, I hope, as Hashem. So what's E equals MC squared equal in the equation that I would like to share with you? the formula for developing and maintaining the best possible relationship. So E, we're going to say, equals enthusiasm. Actually, the word enthusiasm in English has the word theus in the middle. Enthusiasm really means God infused. That's the word enthusiasm. Really means like elokus, Elokim. Bereshis bara Elokim. It means godly energy, which is really enthusiasm, real excitement. That's authentic excitement, not just temporary excitement, but real excitement. Sometimes, I don't know if you ever had the experience of driving in a car, and the sun is in front of you, so you have the visor down, and maybe you have some sunglasses, but you can't see into the car in front of you because the way the light and the angle of the light is, just like when it's dark in the hallway and you look in the subway, let's say, and you look into the subway mirror, you can't see, you can only see the reflection coming back, right? But when it's lighter outside, so you can see the outside. So when a person is in the car and they're looking to the car in front of them, they can't see. But if you look in the rear view mirror, you can see everything. You can count, eyebrow hairs, on the car, the people behind you. You know what I'm saying? So you look into the rear view mirror and you see a couple over there, an old couple. And they're hardly looking at each other, and they turn to each other. And they go, and then they turn away, and they're like, and you drive by and say, like, wow, these two people once stood under the chuppah together, like makara, what happened over there? Where did all the love go? There was love there initially, There was. Everybody came, not just with gifts that came and presents that came from the relatives and the friends and all the people that participated in the wedding, but there was a gift of love in the beginning. There was excitement. There was enthusiasm. What happened to all that excitement? What happened to all that youthful enthusiasm and all that passion? Where did it go? Where did it end up? What happened? It dissipated, and now it goes in 100 directions. What happened to it? And we're not here to do a post-op, to be forensic scientists to figure out what happened. But if we have the opportunity, we have mostly young people here, people starting out or wanting to start out, looking to start out. So how do we invest it properly moving forward? Mikan ve'elef, from here and further. So let's say that E equals energy, natural gift of enthusiasm and excitement that brings any nice, quaint couple to the chuppah, brings them to the canopy of marriage, and then followed by the next step is, what is M? So not different than what Einstein said, not different than the English word mass. We'll say ma'asim, right? What does ma'asim in Hebrew translate to be? The word ma'asim in Hebrew translate in English means action. Deeds, action, doing things. So let's plug in the equation over here. That energy, when it's put into ma'asim, I have to explain for a few different reasons, is the best investment that one could possibly make. Because in the beginning there's a lot of words. When the couples go out, everything is very nice and pleasant. When I meet a couple that they're getting engaged, I always have two pieces of advice. When I meet, a fellow comes to me, Rabbi, I'm engaged. I say, Mazel tov, Mazel tov. Can I talk to you for a few moments? Yeah, what is it? I always have two pieces of unsolicited advice, right? One unsolicited piece of advice is, you should know, first of all, that the engagement period is a very hard period. You should know that, No, everything's going great, super. I just want to let you know, just in case you hit some bumps, because what happens is when you're going out, there's a lot of, where would you like to live? Yerushalayim, me too, You like Torah? Torah, me too. You ever see Torah anytime? Yeah, great, It's so matim, it's so beautiful, Your father has a mustache, my father has a mustache. Your mother has a mustache, my mother has a mustache. This is great, We're going to have such a nice relationship. I can see this is going great, And then you get to the flowers and the seating and the and the furniture and the picking out the ties and patterns and the gowns. So then and where you're going to live and who's going to pay for what. And now it starts to, and expect that before it was ethereal, it was conversation. Words are cheap, right? They are important. We'll talk some other time. I'd like to come back here and talk about words and communication in marriage. But nothing speaks louder than words. One child said to his parents, he says, "Your actions are so loud, I can't hear what you're saying." Right? And we find that words, what are words? Words are like, a person says to his wife, I love you. It's a wonderful thing. I would advise it. I have to give, by the way, someone's going to say, what was the second thing that you say to Chasanim? Okay, I have to go back and fill out the parentheses over here. I was just testing to see whether everybody was paying attention, but I'm sure people were just being polite and they're going to wait to the end. So the second piece of advice I have for Chasanim, when they say, when I tell them, first of all, number one, it could be hard, and if you anticipate that it's going to be hard, it actually makes it easy. But if you think it's going to be easy, then get ready to get sideswiped. But the second important information is, don't take advice from Bachram. That's what I say. Take advice from somebody who's got to the other side, from your non-married friends in the dormitory, or or in the apartment. Don't start taking. Go to the next level. Go to somebody else who's sort of been on the other side of the chuppah, because one moment on the other side will be much more informative than somebody who had loads of experience but prior to the chuppah. Okay, fine. I never liked to hear it when I was a chassan either, but when I was a bracha. But that's what I'll just there. I said it. But words is, if a person says, "I love you," you're the greatest, you're the sweetest, I'm the luckiest man on the face of the earth, right? Me and Lou Gehrig. Yeah? Can you believe that the man died of his own disease? I never got over that, like, wow. What were the chances, Very, very slim. Today, I consider myself the lucky, and a man says his nice speech to his wife. So it could go down, it could be very nicely received. But there's a chance that it could also be, batted out of the stadium, and it could be rejected also. Why? It all depends upon what was the value of the actions. So words is like writing a check. I once did something very disappointing for one of my children. I told him, you do this, you do that. I said, something? I'll give you $1 million if you do it. Okay, there I said it. Then the kid said, okay, And they went and they cleaned up the lawn and did everything, and they came back in. It's all done. I said, everything? You did it all? Where's my check for $1 million? Okay, I took out my checkbook and wrote out a check for $1 million. I should be sitting in a penitentiary someplace now. If the kid would have gone to the bank to check it, and they went to the neighbors, and the kid said, your father doesn't have $1 million, and it's not $1 million check. I got such a look of disappointment. I lost so much credibility. I bounced a huge check with my child, which means there's nothing in the bank to back up that check. And if a person says, I love you, you're the greatest, you're the sweetest, you cook the best, you do everything for me, you make me the happiest man in the face of the earth. And he says, but when I ask you to take out the garbage, where are you? Take out the garbage. What do you want from me? What do you want from me? So you didn't take it. Change your baby's diaper. Take out the garbage. Help me. I'm bringing in the bundles from the car. I'm reading the paper now. I'll come back to you in a few minutes. So all those words are like bounced checks. Putting money in the bank. Actions are like putting money in the bank. So when the person finally says a word, he says something, the words mean something. There used to be an old show tune. I think it was from, not Guys and Dolls, but from, pardon me if I'm wandering off the reservation, this crowd over here, but from My Fair Lady, Don't Talk of Love, Show Me. The lady walking around like, you tell me you love me, where's the ring on the finger? Let's marriage, tachlis, lamaisa, don't talk of love, show me. Do something. So maisim have a very tremendous power, even more than words, because when a person says words, but they're not backed up by maisim, then they come out to be bounced checks, and the eyes roll in the back of the head, and the person says, yeah, you love me. If you love me, you would have been more attentive to my tears. If you love me, you would have been, you would have helped me when I wasn't feeling well. You would have taken the load away from me and helped manage the kids for that afternoon and let me nap on Shabbos afternoon. If you love, now you come and you say, love, love, love. I don't buy it. So maisim is money in the bank. Then when a person goes to say something, then those words are backed up. I write a check. I write a check for a few $100s, and I have a few $1,000s in the bank. So then I feel comfortable writing such a check and making such a statement like that. Another reason why why actions are so important is a very important psychological principle, and that is that the actions change the doer, change the actor into a different person. Right? We find that our great mother, Sarah, that she wanted a child so badly, but she was not able to have a child with Avraham Avinu. So she turned to Avraham even in desperation. What was her desperation? She was a school principal, a mechanchenes, such a brilliant, ideas and such great things she wanted to give over to her next generation, but she's all dressed up and no place to go. She had no student. She had no student. So she had people who were coming through her house, and she had Shabbos guests and guests that she taught, and her and Avraham Mikarev as Anoshim, and Sarah Mikarevis as Anoshim, as a Nefesh Asher Asu B'chara, and they made souls, and so she had a big Kiruv movement going on. She had a giant tent, and she was taking care of guests, female guests, and entertaining, but she had nobody, she didn't have anybody fixed in her house to give. So she turned to Avraham Avinu, she said, Ulai Ebaneh, maybe I'm going to become built up. That through having somebody that I can give to on a constant basis, I can become a different person. It's one thing to have a guest for Shabbos. It's something else to have a child, to have somebody that you're going to give up and you're responsible for teaching and raising from the beginning all the way to the top. I remember when my wife and I we had our first little child more than 25 years ago. So my wife was working at the time. So after a short 6-week maternity leave, she went back to work, and there was a lady there that had been working for many years and already had a house filled with children and already a bunch married at that time. And she said to my wife, so my wife, like she dropped off the baby by the babysitter. In a huff, she came to work, and she, arrived at the office. And this lady, Esther, she said to my wife came home, told me, she said, you know what Esther just told me today? She said, dear, I feel so bad. It's so hard when you have a child like that and you're working. It's very hard when you have one child. He says, when you have 2 children, it gets even harder. My wife starts, she says, when you have 3, she says, it gets easy. And when you hit 7, then you're really flying. That's what my wife said. That's what Esther said. So Esther, Haya Omer, Esther said, so now we have to sit down and figure out and scratch our heads and take some tea. Yes, tea. Okay, honey. Okay, yes, honey. Okay, fine. What did she mean by that? And we started realizing that what happens is that when you have one, it's hard. Right? Because you're used to, I'm going to go to the mall. Oh, I got to go out and get some cottage cheese. Sometimes you see people online in the grocery store, they got one cottage cheese. That's it. And they got one, and then they leave the store and they come back later on and they're going to go shopping again. They're going to get now, something else. They're going to get a soda, one soda. So, that's all. You can go get something, you can come back. But now, when you got one kid, so what am I going to do with the kid? Do I take the kid? The baby's sleeping. Something? I go to my neighbor. I said, could you keep your eye on? I'll just put him in a little car seat over here. You watch my little kid. And he said, and when your kid needs to be watched, you'll drop him by me. We'll do a little round robin like that. Okay, terrific. I'll be right back. If he cries, give me a call. Fine. Okay. So it's not so easy to suddenly, you're encumbered by having a child. We want to go here. We want to go there. We can't because we got the little child. What do we do? The child becomes cumbersome. What do we do? Then you have 2. It's even more cumbersome because now I got one sleeping. I got one walking around. The one walking around is going to wake the one sleeping. So now I can maybe bring them by Bubby, and Bubby's going to watch them. But then Bubby's starting to lose her interest because I have one running around and touching everything, and you got the other one that's sleeping. And how's she going to manage to go upstairs and downstairs? It's not so easy. It's hard. So maybe you drop one there and you strap one on your back, and it's not so easy. When you hit 3, it's easy. Why? Because you don't have a neighbor and you have a Bubby. You don't have anybody who's going to watch after that child. That's it. Now you decided, I'm home, I'm the mother. That's it. Now you're committed to the job. Once you're committed to the job, then for some reason it becomes easy because I'm here. I'm not thinking about how can I get rid of him and how can I get my feet free to go do something else because I'm here. And when you hit 7, boom, then you're really flying. I remember one time we took a trip to Boston. My wife, I think we had about 4 or 5 kids in the car, and we're driving to Boston, 3.5, 4-hour ride. And here, no stops along the way. We had everybody go beforehand, and we brought crackers and all the different cheeses and everything, and tapes and for the car. And we're driving up, and I'm standing there I just want to keep my eyes. I'm observing all the action that's going on for 4 hours plus. My dear wife, bless her soul, there wasn't one uninterrupted moment where she was not doing something for somebody in the car, including me. I'm her biggest child, right? Where she's putting cheese on a cracker and passing it to the back. She's wiping somebody's face. She's changing a diaper, from behind the car seat. She's putting in the tape, turning over the tape. That was back in the days of tapes, and we're doing all these different things. And then she made something for me, and she's holding it, and then the drink, the cup holder was not, so she's holding the cup while I'm drinking. Fine. And then back, and she wipes my face. Fine. All the different, and my diaper, she's doing all the different things that has to be done, and we're going 4 hours up with no interruption, uninterrupted, and here I am, the gorilla, just driving the car, and I'm watching. I said, this woman, her hands, and she has not stopped for other people. She's being built up through this investment over here. She's becoming not just someone who does chesed. You do chesed, then you become an ish chesed or an eshes chesed. You become somebody that becomes the mahus, that becomes your personality. There's a rebbitzin in our neighborhood well, just a few steps away from our immediate neighborhood. And this woman, unbelievable. What a tzedek is. She has 13 children, Kanai Nahara. And when we were first married, she had 2 sets of twins that were under the age of 5. Okay? And another child. And the first little honeymoon apartment that my wife and I moved into, it was such a beautiful, cute apartment. For some reason, it was the ceiling was lower than the top of this mechitza over here, you know? I had to walk in like a kippah. I had to walk in, you know, very humble into this apartment. And my wife said, oh, isn't it so cute? I said, so cute. I can't stand up straight in the apartment, you know? I don't know why I agreed. That was in the living room. In the kitchen, I could stand up straight, you know? And then in the bedroom, I was all, you know, forget about it. It was crazy. And then what happens is, I don't know, nobody here is going to remember Hurricane Gloria. Who's here going to remember Hurricane Gloria from 26 years ago? Every Erev Sukkot, everybody put up their sukkahs on Erev Sukkot, and Hurricane Gloria came and took down everybody's sukkah. It hit the eastern seaboard. It was unbelievable. We ended up with about 12 inches of water right above the electric sockets in our honeymoon apartment. So between the low ceiling and the 12 inches of water, I needed a gondola to get to the bedroom in the back. We got flooded out of our honeymoon apartment. We were out. Now, on Sukkot's time, we were out of our dearest kava. We went out to a dearest arai. We were traveling from pillar to post, visiting people. My wife said, I heard that Rebbitzin, what's her name? She broke one ankle and sprained another ankle coming up from the basement when she heard that a guest was returning. A guest had just returned from Europe, and she wanted to go out and greet him in a hurry, and she had something in her hand. She came up from the basement. She tripped, and she sprained an ankle and broke an ankle. Let's get out of our misery, and let's go visit the Rebbitzin over there. Now, this woman is unbelievable. She, you know, I would go when I was a bacher, so her husband would say, come, he didn't drive, he said, come, we're going to do a midnight mission, and there was a bride and a groom getting married, and the whole night before, for 3 hours, from 1 o'clock in the morning to 4 o'clock in the morning, even with all her children, we were out filling up and stocking up the shelves of a bride and a groom. And she's baking a cake that needs to be delivered here, and a whole meal that needs to go over here. Like unbelievable things. Her husband says, I just can't keep up with her. I just can't keep up with her, you know. And we're trying to just. And I wasn't the only one that helped. She had a whole army of people that were supporting and helping to do the thing. She was unbelievable. So we came to see her, and my wife and I came in. We're flooded out of our apartment. We're just married a couple of months. I think my wife was also beginning to be expecting at that time. Everything and everybody, well, especially me, made her nauseous. I'd walk into the room. Hi, I'm home. You know. Yeah, I after a while learned not to take it personally, but like, what, you know? You married me, you know? I don't, you know, like. And here it was the best of times, the worst of times. So we went to see the Rebbitzin, and we went to see her. She's sitting in a wheelchair. We said, oh, we heard about your leg. She goes, oh, your apartment. They told me your apartment. What are you going to do? What does the landlord say? Will you be able to move back in? What are you doing for, you know? She goes, did you eat lunch yet? And we said, lunch. You don't have a kitchen, do you? No. And she goes, come into the, you know. So she wheels into the kitchen. Next thing you know, we're sitting in the kitchen, my wife and I, at the kitchen table with 2 hot bowls of soup, with folded napkins and fanned out crackers and everything. And I looked at my wife at one moment and I said, I must have missed it. But did a lady in a wheelchair just serve us 2 bowls of hot soup with crackers and, you know, and all these other things? Like, what happened over here? You know, that at some point the person becomes so transformed from doing actions, because the principle that the Mesil Sharm says is tenuas achitzonius mareris as a panemius, that when a person does a certain action, it wakes up, it excites, we're transformed. Sometimes I'm not in the mood of doing something. And the principle is that even if I'm not in the mood of it, as my kids say, I'm not in the mood of it, right? But if I do the action, I become that I'm in the mood of it. And if I can do it enough, then it makes me actually into a different person. Because actions trump words. That's what we're just learning over here. Actually, the Sefer Chinuch says, "Ha'adam niful achar pu'ulosav." That's the reason that he gives from most of the mitzvahs, from the Tamei HaMitzvahs, for many of the mitzvahs that we do, because a person is affected by the things that he does. And the thesis is that if you would take a candy striper and you would make her into a prison guard, you take one of these nice girls that wheels out people, nice Beis Yaakov girl, you know, Miss Beis Yaakov, and you make her into somebody, she becomes a prison guard. You give her a whip and the keys, and you say, "Get in here, you animals," you know, and she locks the doors, you know. So after a couple of weeks, you know, she's going to come home like Attila the Hun, you know, it's just going to make her into a cruel person. And you take some cruel person, some brute, some prison mate, and you turn him into a candy striper. And he says, yes, okay, let me help you with the balloons and the baby into the car. Okay, fine, you know, here's the balloons now. Okay, let's make sure they get in. You don't want one to float away, you know. And you give them that responsibility, and here's the blanket, and let's buckle the little guy in there. Okay, congratulations, you know, and you give him that job over there and you tell him he has to be sweet every day, he'll turn into a sweet person whether he intended to be sweet or not, because the actions will shape. Give another example. The Chafetz Chaim was one time approached by one of his students, and the student said, I have a job, I'm getting a job in a bank. And the job that I'm getting in the bank, I have two choices of which position I'm going to take. This is a Polish bank, so you can understand, okay? You know, in one window, he said, I'm the person that's receiving the money, and I'm accepting the money, and giving the person a pink slip, you know, that they just put a deposit slip. So fine. That means they're depositing in one window. In another window, they're cashing checks and they're getting money. So he says, so which window should I be sitting in? And listen what the Chafetz Chaim had a certain opinion about this. Anybody guess which one do you think the person should take? What's that? What's that? The one that's cashing the checks and giving out. I think everybody understood the principle over here. And why is that? Because if he's going to sit there for that's going to be his career for the next 20, 30, 40 years, you know? So then he's going to turn into a giver. But I think even the more novel concept over here is not that the person sitting there and he's giving becomes a giver, but what about the fellow who's sitting in the window and he's receiving money, he's helping people deposit their money. So you're just putting money in the bank. You said putting money in the bank is a good thing. We all like to put money in the bank, right? So if I put money in the bank, that's a good thing. So theoretically, I'm accepting the money, but I'm helping the person. So the Alter from Kelm had said that the principle is what we do theoretically doesn't affect us the same way. It's what we do experientially. Let me explain. So if a person is taking and putting money into the bank for the person, he gets used to take, even though it's not his money and he's just putting it into the drawer and it's being assigned to the bank, to account in the bank. But it's not, he gets used to the idea of take. And when the person gives out, he's giving out money from the drawer. It's not his money, but he's used to the idea of give. But the person who's taking, isn't he theoretically helping people save money? And that's what he's experiencing theoretically. So the Alter from Kelm says a person should do, a doctor, and I'm not picking on doctors in particular, he says a doctor should do a little extra chesed at the end of the day. Why? The Gemara in Kedushin says, Tov sheba rofim legehenim. Most doctors have to go through a little cleansing and purification process after 120 years. Even the best. And he says, and the reason is, he says, because they get used to doing cruel acts throughout the day. A doctor's healing people. One of my best friends is a doctor, sweetest guy. He goes running out. He hardly even, when he comes to us for Shabbos, he can hardly stay for the whole Shabbos. I mean, he's got to go running out someplace because he's got to help people. But I've been in his office learning with him. We sit and we learn together in his office. And he goes, he's got to wrap up the parents, you know, in a papoose. And he's got to wrap up the kid in a papoose to put a stitch on top of the kid's eye. He says, okay, kid, this is not going to hurt a little bit. It's like the Spanish Inquisition. What he has to do to people over there, you know? You're sitting in the hospital and the doctor walks in. How are you feeling today? Good. Okay, let's just see. How's that knee? Ooh. Where's it hurt? Right there. Ooh. I think you got it. Okay. How about if I touch you there? Oh, I think that's it. You got it. Okay, good. We're just going to give you a little needle shot of here. Ready? You know? Thank you, doctor. See Margie on the way out. Hope you feel better, you know? So he just made me better. I got a cortisone shot in my knee. I thought I wanted to kill the guy, you know? Look what he did. But you know something now, ever since then, you know, I don't think I need anything. My knee, the swelling went down and everything's fine. So he helped me. But theoretically, he gets the idea. He's pounding away and he's torturing people, he's mitching people all day long. So what a person does begins to affect their personality, even though theoretically and practically they are helping people. So the Chafetz Chaim had a certain opinion. And therefore the actions that we do are more important than the words that we speak. Actions trump words, and I'll just prove it and we'll move on to the next part. Let's say I tell you, I drop my shoulders down, I lower my voice, very, very shallow, and I tell you, I'm so inspired to be here. You're one of the nicest groups that I've ever had a chance to speak to. Just great to see all you. You know? So what do you believe more? There's an incongruity, there's a lack of, equality between what I'm saying, obviously, and the way I'm behaving it, and the way I'm saying it, and my body language is telling you something else, right? That makes it sort of ridiculous. But which is more believable? The words that I'm saying? The words are incredible. They're not believable. The actions are telling you much more. But if I throw my shoulders back and put a big smile on my face, and I say, gosh, I'm depressed. Matter of fact, when I was driving over the bridge, I looked down to the left and I was thinking to myself, maybe now's the time. You know? Now the words don't make any sense because the actions are telling you he doesn't feel that way, he don't mean it. So when a person says, wife says, dear, can you take out the garbage, please? Yes, dear. You know, that's the easiest thing for me to control. For you, any day, you know, here I go, you know. I do it, even though inside my stomach I say, I hate to take out the garbage. I don't care what you feel. One of the beautiful, amazing exercises that we do in our house on Friday night is that we go around. I only wish I didn't start this exercise so many years ago. I feel terrible that, you know, that's my only regret, is that we didn't do it, you know, when my older ones were younger. But we started maybe about 7, 8 years ago. And when I first started, my kids wanted to run to the exit. Get me out of it. Exit, stage left. Heavens to Murgatroyd. Get me out of here, right? But now my kids want to know, can I go first? Can I go first? And I don't care how many people are sitting around the table, adults, children, it gets everybody involved. We go around the table and they know in advance. The only ones that exempt my daughters-in-laws for the first year of marriage. I don't want to put pressure on them. You know, so they don't feel like they have to say something, you know, remarkable. But it's usually not something remarkable. I go around the table and I ask them, you know, tell me something, and I'll start first. Tell me something that you feel that gave you a feeling of accomplishment this week. And it's amazing the things that we've discovered. Because usually what happens is it's not something that the person, oh, I got the shoes that I was looking for, you know. It usually came out to be something that was difficult for that person to do. One of my daughters says, I got an 80 on a math test. And someone else says, 80? That's not a good grade. And she says, but I'm not so good at math. I studied very hard, and I thought I was going to fail. So we go, you know, that's great, you did it. Yeah? And we go around the table. We had an older fella, an Orsamev guy. He's sitting at our table on Friday night. And what did he say? He says, I had a nice conversation with my mother. You know, for him, that was an accomplishment. That was an accomplishment. It's usually something which is difficult for the person to do, or something that they did for somebody else. Nobody ever said, you know, I found something on sale, and you know, and I got what I was looking for. Just the opposite. My daughter got extra money back one time, and she said, I went back and I returned the money, you know, and I was wrestling with myself, and I decided, and I asked you, Abba, and I asked somebody else, and I decided I'm going to give the money back, even though maybe I didn't have to, but I gave the money back, and the people were so amazed, you know, and it made such a Kiddush Hashem, you know, not because she got what she wanted, but she got something extra, and she decided she's going to return it because it's the emes. It's the right thing. This guy says, I had a nice conversation with his mother. Another fellow says, I said the whole, sitting next to him that same night, said I had said the whole Sefer Tehillim every day this week. Whoa. The guy sitting next to him says, I got up for Shacharis 3 times this week. You know? And I said, I took out the garbage before Ima asked me. You know? You know? Just something big like that. It could have been, you know, that I would come home and I tell my wife, I did a whole big speech. There were 100 people there, 200 people there, and they really enjoyed it. My wife would go, take out the garbage, you know? What did you do around here? Did you do homework with the kid? Did you do that? I want to know what you are locally over here, not what you did out there. What gave the person the feeling of accomplishment was the thing that was probably the most difficult thing for them to do. So therefore, when a person does things in marriage and does things for somebody else, that's even difficult for them to do it, even though they're not in the mood to do it. So it changes the person and it gives them that sense of accomplishment in what it is that they're doing. And that's why maisim, that's why relationships are so important, because it forces us to perform like a job, forces you to perform and do things that you didn't think that if you were just left to your own mood and your own mood swings, you wouldn't do it and you wouldn't become that ish or that ashish chesed. Wouldn't happen. So that's why E equals M. Part of it is maisim, but there's one other dimension that I'd like to mention. And that is that it changes the way we feel about the person that's on the receiving end. Reb Dessler says an unbelievable principle. It's very, very surprising. And he says that we don't give to the ones we love. Sometimes a person will tell me, you know, I thought I loved my wife, but when I got married, I don't know, I don't feel that. You know, I don't feel like I want to do like the things like before we got married, you know? And the answer is, you do it anyway. And you do it, and you do it, and you do it, and you do it. This is Rav Wolbe had, in his Kuntres HaChasanim, I saw he had asked a group of young Bachram who were getting married, he says, what do you want to base your marriage on? And they all said, love and understanding. And he said, fools, right? You can't base a marriage on love and understanding. Because, number one, you don't understand the person yet. You'll understand them more later on as time goes by. But right now, you have some vague, stick picture image, of potential, but you don't really understand the person completely yet, number one. And number two, he says you don't love them yet because of Reb Dessler's principle that we don't give to the ones we love the ones to whom we give. Right? Plant a garden. Right? This is the lesson that was spelled out so clearly at the end of the book of Yonah, right? Where he plants a little, plant that comes up and he takes care of a plant. There's a plant in my house. I take care of it. There's one that my father gave when my son was born 25 years ago, and we take care of it. And I water that plant, and I make sure I put it in a good light, and I make sure that the leaves are whole. And my kids say, "What are you potching around?" I'm watching after that plant for 25. I'm invested 25 years in this plant. Don't you understand? No, don't put that plant in the dark corner like that. That's my baby. Come here, So it's just a plant, Abba. That's a plant I've been watering and taking care of and moving from, to make sure it got the right shade and the right window and the right light, And it's very delicate, it's very sensitive. Watch out for that plant. That's my plant. Sometimes my accomplishment is I watered the plant and I moved it and I took care of another plant. I adopted another plant. I have a few adopted plants, right? But whatever you did, if you took a garden and you invested in a garden, you'll feel good about that little plot of land. Nobody can give you that plot of land. Nobody can give you a garden. But if you planted in a garden, if you invested in it, then you love it. And the Talmud says when a person meets his wife, and you meet your wife in a crowd of people, you could be. I was by the Eschataya Ani Maskeri. I went to the fireworks with my wife. It was our 26th wedding anniversary, and we went to. They said, let's enjoy it with 3 million other people. Okay, so we went to Midtown Manhattan on the West Side, and there was so many millions of other people, and it was just nice. It was nice to be there, together. There was something about being there together. So. You know something? I'm having a senior moment over here. How about that? Okay. That's what happens. I guess that's what I have. You have your 26th wedding anniversary. Okay. So you love the one. So I could be there amongst 3-4 million people, and suddenly, there's my wife. The only one amongst all those, half of those were females, and the only one that meant anything to me was my wife, because that's where I'm invested. The Talmud says a person's wife finds more chayin in their eyes than anybody else, because that's where I'm invested. You could walk by, you can see banks and financial institutions, but you pass by your bank, my bank, Provident Bank, That's where my fortune has been investing, I pass by my house. That's where I've been building up and putting things in. I feel differently about it. Because I'm paying a mortgage now, 1/3 of whatever I make for the last, 23 years. That's my house. I pass by, I could go through the biggest neighborhoods with the most, beautiful homes and the most beautiful houses. Those are houses. My home is my home. I remember one Sunday, my wife, she said, Label, take a look at this. I said, what's going on? Oh, that's not good. The steps, the concrete steps in front of the house, she says, it's starting to crumble. It's falling apart. I said, that's like that. We need some serious masonry work over here. I said, I think you better call a guy to do it. She goes, I just did. I said, oh yeah, okay, good. She goes, I called you. I said, what do I know about masonry? I said, I'm not. That's not my thing. I'll give a speech about it. I'll speak to the rock like Moshe. Take the stick. But I can't. I can't do it. She goes. I said, you probably need some concrete or something like. She goes, yeah, I have some in the trunk already. I went to Home Depot. I said, 100-pound bag. I said, you carried a 100-pound bag? I said, no. The guy put it in. He told me what to do. He said, this is what you have to do. He says, you just stir it and the thing. I said, oh, okay. It's all here already. So I took a bucket and I put the water in and and I start stirring this pot, and I'm making like challah over here. I'm stirring. It's fun. All the kids came out. We put on rubber gloves, and then there's a few cracks in it, and I start to push the stuff into the cracks. Oh, it was great. It was a lot of fun, pushing it in. And instead of making a flat, it came out like this big boil that's sticking out of here. When it dried, I painted it, and I said, this stuff is good. I said, we have some cracks in the driveway. Let's do some cracks in the driveway too. This stuff is good for a lot of stuff. Okay. Anybody have any fillings that they need filled? Come here, kids. This stuff is good for everything. As long as it's wet and it's still going, we can do a lot of good. This is great. We had a lot of fun. So we painted it white, and it was the most ugly, ridiculous job. It worked, and it held up the steps now for these last, 10 years later. But you know something? When I'm coming home, I just came home from Great Neck. I just came home from some great, beautiful homes in some other fancy neighborhood, and I come running up the steps. As I'm running up the steps, before I take a look and I stop, I go, And I smile at that, because I invested a Sunday into doing something with my children and my family and trying to please my wife. And therefore, when you do something, you feel differently about the one that you're giving to. When you're giving to somebody, when you're giving to a child, when you're giving to a spouse, when you're giving to somebody, then you're giving to a class and you're investing in something, then you feel differently about it. It transforms your attitude towards the one that you're giving to. Right? So when somebody becomes your student and you give to them, so then you feel differently about them. They become like your child. When it's somebody else, when you didn't give anything to them, therefore, even if a person has a little bit of an enemy or has a cold relationship with somebody, so you give them a shlach manas, you invite them over, you do something with them, you talk with them, you give them something, you invest a little of your time, a little bit of your energy in that person, and suddenly you start to feel differently about him. It becomes a transformative property. It's not my idea. The Talmud says that if you have a choice between your enemy's animal is being loaded up and your friend's animal is being unloaded, so we have a competing concept of loading or unloading an animal, and sar bali chayim. You're not allowed to cause pain to animal. All things being equal, the preference is to help unload an animal. But if it's your enemy that's loading up his animal, go help your enemy, because he won't become your enemy anymore. Because if you give to him, you'll feel differently. So if a person feels neutral, doesn't feel the love, make the love. Right? Go out there and do stuff. Maisim will transform the way the person, and it will activate the elokus, the godliness in the person. And Reb Desser says at any moment the person is either a giver or a taker. There's no such thing as being in between. A person at any one moment is either a giver or a taker. It's not so easy to see, because sometimes you bump into a salesman and he looks like he wants to give you, have a glass of water, please come in, sit down. But really in the back of his mind he says, he's got something else. He's got an agenda in mind, and you feel it. And then sometimes there's somebody that they're taking something from you, but they're really giving you a chance to give. I remember when we were first married, my wife and I, somebody gave us, a relative wanted to give us a car. But I figured I didn't want to take this thing as a big item, and I'm afraid it's like the Plotnik diamond. You heard about the Plotnik diamond, right? They said it comes with a curse. Mr. Plotnik, okay? I'm afraid that it's coming with strings attached. And I told my Rebbe, I said, I don't want to accept it. He says, because Shlomo Melech said, Sonim metanis yichya, somebody who hates gifts will live. Sonim metanis. So my Rebbe says, they want to give it to you. Give them a chance to give. Give them a chance to be a part of it. I said, but Sonim metanis yichya, somebody who hates gifts will live. He says, hate it, but accept it. You're really doing an act of giving by giving somebody else a chance to give. Sometimes, a wife makes something, and doesn't taste particularly fantastic, you like it. It is really something, and you eat it and you finish up. He said, can I have a second helping? And sometimes you're giving the person a chance to give. Yeah, that's it. Even though the person is taking. So it's hard to tell. But when a person's in the giving mode, and a person does these acts of giving, does things for somebody else that's hard for them, it's the giving part which is obviously activated. And therefore a person is like a horse with a rider on top of it. And when the horse is active, so the horse wants me, I, wants to take, eat. It's all about me. Everything's revolving around me. The godly part, the elokus part, right? Squirrels want to take. Monkeys want to take. They want to eat bananas, and they want to chase they want to climb in trees, and horses want to run in the fields and chase each other, and they want to run in the rivers. They want to run horizontally. But the godly part, the rider, wants to go up in the top of a building, and he wants to climb up to an observatory. He wants to understand and plumb the secrets of the universe, and he wants to see generations before and generations ahead, and he can feel himself a part of history, the history of the past, from Avraham Avinu until Mashiach, from the beginning of time until the end of time. The person can see themselves, and therefore squirrels and monkeys are not participating in creating hospitals or chesed organizations or shuls for other people, or doing things for future generations. But if a person can give to somebody else, then they're exercising their elokus, they're exercising their godly nature. Last year we became grandparents, my wife and I thought of this idea that I once heard, that there was a rabbi in Yerushalayim who was giving praise to one of his colleagues, on the occasion of the bris of his first grandchild. And this rabbi stood up and he said about his colleague, who happened to be a huge Talmud scholar, he says, today, Rabbi so-and-so, who was the grandfather of the child, he says, today, he is a human being. Everybody went, what? That's the praise you say about this, scholarly rabbi, that he became a grandfather. He's the grandfather of the child who got the bris, But today he's a human being. And he pointed out an interesting observation, that in the animal world, there's no such thing as grandchildren, right? In all these social organizations, monkeys and whatever, primates, they're so close that they can have a natural instinct. Mother bear has a natural instinct for her baby bear. But a mother bear who has a baby bear, and that baby bear grows up and has a little baby bear herself, or himself, there's no neched, there's no grandchild. There's no fealty between the grandchild and the grandparent. There's no connection between the grandparent and the grandchild. Only amongst humans. And the fact that the grandfather came, it means that now he's a part of generations, and he sees himself part of something bigger. So when the godly part is giving, then the person is participating, and that's what Sarah meant. Ulaya banem, maybe I'm going to become built up. I want to be part of something bigger. I don't want to be about me and only about me. So that's the transformative part about the M part, the meisim. And now we come to the C squared. And what is the C squared? So C, we didn't spell out yet. C was the speed of light in Einstein's equation. And out in the street it was cuteness and car or credit card. But over here we'll say that C is decision, D. Okay, I'm sorry to disappoint you, D is disappointment. Okay. So, and actually, being a human being, one of the most dramatic and amazing things and unique things that we do different than angels. Angels are compelled to do what they must do because they're angels. Human beings are different. Animals do what they're compelled to do because they're animals and they have instincts to do. Angels see God so clearly they can't do other than what God says. Animals must do what they do because their instincts are pushing them and they can't do anything. The lion is hungry and he must tear and he must rip and he must eat. But a human being decides if he wants to be more like an animal or he wants to be more like a God, more like an angel. Which does he, where is he can use his intellect to become like an angel, and therefore we're a little bit torn between. So being able to choose, having free choice. Oh, there it is, C, choice, okay. C, choosing. Choosing, C, is a unique human quality, C. But let's try to expand. What does choosing mean? Because it sounds very, very dull, and it's a very unromantic, and not that we're looking for romance, but it's a very unexciting word that's what it's about, choosing. So I'd like to expand a little bit. I didn't understand it. We usually think of choices also like horizontal choices, Coke or Pepsi. Milkshakes or flakes. What's it going to be tonight? Indian or Chinese or Italian or what's it going to be? What are we having? Cold soup or hot soup? No. Those are choices. Those horizontal choices the family dog can make, right? But here we're talking about choices. Really means to choose to come closer on Yaakov Avinu's ladder, to go up, right? To ascend, to go up. Malachi Elohim Olim v'Yordim bo, to go up or to go down. And this idea settled in my mind. I remember one time many years ago, I was in California for a seminar, and it clicked in. There must have been about 600 people at the seminar. It was huge. People's lives were changed. I should have remembered something else that happened from that whole giant Shabbaton, and I've been involved with hundreds of them like that. But for some reason, what I remember was the conversation that happened the day afterwards. I couldn't get a flight out immediately, so I ended up in California for an extra day. And I'm sitting out on the plaza with a friend of mine who was with the organizer of this seminar, a big, strong, tough, Bulvan, an Israeli fella, 6'2", 6'3", could walk through walls, not afraid of anything. A real Israeli tank, and had been in the army, and had built up millions of dollars in business, and lost it, and built it up again. And he had a whole story, unbelievable story. Wow, what a life! And we're talking about his life. We're telling him a little bit about my life. And I tell him sometimes after I finish an event like this, I don't do it anymore. But I like to treat myself with something. I like to get a cigar or something like that. I said, you have a cigar maybe? He says, no. He gave me a look like, I said, what's the matter? He said, no. I said, you never smoked a cigar? He says, I used to smoke, so I don't smoke cigars or anything. I said, you used to smoke? He says, yes. Matter of fact, he says, for 30 years, I smoked 3 packs of cigarettes a day. Wow. He says, starting about 8 years, he says, till 8 years ago, when I just on the time that I started to know him, right when I met him for the first time, he had just stopped smoking, actually just shortly before that. I said, 3 packs of cigarettes for 30 years? I said, I don't believe the other things you told me about what you do now, because I don't know when you had time. That's a full-time job. That's one to the other. That's for 30 years you smoked 3 packs of cigarettes. And I said, why did you stop, man? How did you stop? Like, what happened? How did you do it? And he says, I just looked at it one time. I saw some people. I didn't like the way it looked. And I said to myself, that's it. I'm not doing it anymore. And I made a decision. I'm not going to do it. When I made the decision, I'm not going to do it, then I'm not going to do it. He made his choice. And once he made that choice, once he flipped that switch that I'm not going to do it, then he doesn't do it anymore. And when I got on the plane and the plane was taking off, I'm saying to myself, wow, A guy made a decision. It wasn't even Yom Kippur at Ne'ilah, like, I'll never, It was like, right in the middle of a weekday, some inane moment, or the person looked, and he made a decision about a habit that's ingrained in him that he's doing all day for 30 days, for 30 years, every day, 30 cigarettes a day. Wow! 3 packs of cigarettes, 60 cigarettes a day, right? And he just interrupted, he arrested it in one moment. I just couldn't get over it. And only when I opened up the sefer that I had with me, which was a sefer called Nefesh HaChaim, that's written by Reb Chaim Volozhin, the famous student of the Vilna Gaon, and he has a quote there I saw from the Zohar, where he says that when a person makes a decision, when a person makes a choice in life, even when it's ola b'machshava, even enters into the person's mind to make a decision. The person decides in their mind, but not a light talking about like I'm deciding, but I'm not really made up my. But when a person actually makes up their mind, there's a thought. Just like there's a thought, there's a speech, there's action. In the world of thought, there's the thought of thought, there's the speech of thought, and there's the action of thought. We're talking about the action of thought. A decision where the person says, I'm doing it. I'm not going to speak Lashon Hara anymore. I'm going to keep Shabbos now. I'm going to marry that guy. I'm going to learn Daf Yomi. I'm going to do this. When a person decides that that's what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the gym every day. I'm going to get into shape. I'm going to become a black belt. I'm going to do this. I'm going to, I've decided. That's it. No more. I'm going to do it. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to do that. When a person makes a decision, it's oil b'machshava, especially, he says, in the area of a mitzvah, in a mitzvah. He says the person is immediately surrounded by an aura makif, by an energy pack. He says that gives the person the ability to follow through and to actually perform and to make the mitzvah. B'derech sh'adam rotza leilach malichin also, habola taher messiah also. He gets a heavenly help. He gets a push from the angelic energy, which is suddenly he's infused to accomplish that task that he set upon himself to accomplish. And I said, wow, the plane is taken off. And I'm saying, that's it. That's it. When a person makes a decision to do something, they get a power pack. And when I understood that, it suddenly dawned upon me the answer to a question that had been bothering me for years. What's the question? Question is, I never understood what the big attraction, what the big lure that people come to Jewish weddings. I never understood why people running to Jewish weddings from all over the world. Someone's getting married in Brooklyn, so people are coming in. They're flying in from Eretz Israel. They're coming down from Canada, from Montreal, and relatives are coming up from Florida, and they're all traveling in. They're all getting out new suits, taking it out of the plastic, only to go around for 3 hours, and they should take it and wrinkle it, and throw it back into the. They have to take it back to the cleaners afterwards. How many hours? How much money is spent? We're not even talking about a gift. We're not even talking about what the bride and the family is spending for the meal, and what the groom is spending for the booze and for the flowers and for the band and all that other stuff. And 500 chickens have to give up their life for this event. I married my wife and I. My wife, we had a very small family. She has a small family. Her family was lost in the Holocaust, and her father was a simple tailor that worked with his hands and saved money for his only child, for his daughter. And here comes the wedding. And we have to invite, we didn't know that many people. We had to invite 500 strangers, and they came. I told him, Daddy, give us the money. If you want to spend money? You're spending it for 3 hours. It seems very un-Jewish. And that's it. It's over. I understand. Now that I have daughters, I feel differently. Okay? I have to tell you. But I understood. What's the big deal? What's the big schmeal that people are coming? They're so excited about a wedding. What's so exciting about a wedding? But then I understood what it means. See, choice over here. This aspect of choice. That when a person makes a choice, they're visited with a power pack. So what do you have? You have standing under the chuppah over here. You have this chosin, you have this kala, you have these two people over here. They're not just making a decision, I'm not going to smoke cigarettes anymore, and therefore I have to stay with this decision. But they're given a power pack, they're making a decision about something that's going to affect each and every one of them for the rest of their lives. Both of them are now going to be affected totally with this decision. You have not just one person about one area of life, you have two people making a decision that's going to affect both of their lives entirely. And they're going to say, we're going to stay with this decision, not just for the next 2 or 3 weeks, it's an experiment, a month, we'll see if it works, but forever, we're going to stay with it. Through thick and through thin. Come what may, with the in-laws and the outlaws, right? And the children, and the sleepless nights, and the economy, and the wrinkles. And the spreading midsection, and the this and the that, and this and that, and all the things that can happen to a person over the course of marriage. But I'm being committed, and I'm saying committed, that's the word, to this person. See, there's C, commitment. Choice, that's a commitment to this person. And when we understand that at a wedding also. People are coming there because it's a rocket launching, and there's an energy, there's a power pack that's there, like people even now, again, they let go the shuttle mission or something like that. And people came to watch. 8, 10, 9. I remember as a kid, it was a big deal. The first ones were going, John Glenn were going to 8, 7, 6. We have liftoff. And the whole ground was shaking. And people are watching over there. Look at how much energy is present in that room. When two people are deciding that they're going to launch themselves, they're going to stay with it forever. Look at how much energy is in that room. How much energy they have in love and devotion they have for each other, and how much is represented in that power pack that they're being visited with while they're making that decision at the moment of the decision. And everything, my friends, we know about a wedding is just a faint echo and a shadow and a memory of something that happened almost exactly 3,323 years ago. We just passed the holiday of Shavuot. And the Jewish people stood by Mount Sinai, and everybody knows when the Kodesh Baruch Hu asked them if they wanted to receive the Torah, what did we say? We said, Nasa v'nishma. And Rabbeinu Yonah says, how can you say that we'll do it? And then we'll understand it. How do you do it before you understand it? He says, we're committed to do it before we understand it. And therefore, since we're committed to do it, we're going to remain the Jewish people forever. We're going to remain the Jewish people through pogroms, and through exile, and through bombings. Come what may, we're going to stay. Ad bias gold tzedek b'mhera v'yameinu. We're going to stay to the end until the Hay Hashem HaMelech. Al chal haaretz b'yamu Hashem echad u'shemo echad. We're staying around to the end of history. And when we accepted it, there was an afterburn. There was a power pack that's there for anybody who wants to plug into it for the rest of history. That's how much energy is there. That's how much possibility is there. Anytime a person says, I want to do this, or I'm going to do that, that's the power pack that surrounds the person when they make that decision. And therefore, C squared. Why C squared? Because there's two constants. When a girl is looking for a guy, or a guy's looking for a girl, you wonder, does he have a Rebbe? Does he go to a shul? Does he have a job? Is he able to fulfill a commitment? Is he Shomer Shabbos? You can marry another person. If you're married to God because you're hanging on to the constant of the universe, the cells in the body will change once in every 7 years. It's a different person. But the essence of the person, you're marrying a neshama. Can the person be married to a Kodesh Baruch Hu first? First is the commitment to God. Then there's a commitment, the possibility of a commitment to another person. If there's no commitment to the constant, to God, then there's no commitment to another person. You understand that? I think we can appreciate that. And when there's deeds, there's maisim that are involved. Wow. So then that backs up and makes the person's committing themselves by doing more. I'm committed to do more. And I'm committed and I'm going to do more. And whenever the person commits, then that energy is reinfused and enthused back into the relationship. You get a new blast, a new nuclear blast of energy. Not just I got married 26 years ago and I'm stuck with the results of what I did 26 years ago, you know? Not getting married now. Now, not 26 years ago. When's my anniversary? Now. I get married again. The minute the person makes a decision that they want to do it, so we're ready to commit, we're ready to give. When people stop giving and the people stop committing, so then they start withdrawing their stuff and holding on to their stuff, and he withdraws to his cave, and she starts to keep her little private things, and it's your money and it's my money, and we're not committed, we're not into it together. And then it's going out the door. People are going away from each other. But the more a person gives, FDIC, the more we deposit with each other. And then the more we commit, then it gives a confidence that if I'm committed, when people mention the D word, and I'm not going to mention the D word, not decision, mention the D word, then what happens is then people don't want to give anymore. Why should I give into a bank if it's not going to be there? There's an old song, Carole King song, Will You Still Love Me Tomorrow? Why should I give into something if I don't know if it's going to be there, if the deposit is going to disappear? I have to be able to deposit, knowing the commitment allows the person to say, we're in this and there's no D word. There is no D word. You say, but isn't there such a thing called D? Yes, there is. There's such a thing called amputation also. But it's not an option. To save an organism, that somebody shouldn't go crazy, somebody shouldn't die, you know? So you're right. But it's not, say, hey, it didn't work out. Like, it's not a pair of shoes. This is it, I'm committed to this thing. And they're committed, so then people feeling with that commitment, it allows people to deposit much more and to make those, knowing that my deposit is not going in. It's FDIC, right? FDIC, right? It's backed up by the federal government, and I know this backed up by commitment, so therefore I can afford to invest, and I'll invest more. And the more maisim I do, then the more I feel it's a background for me to commit. So it starts with commitment, and it starts with those two things. And that creates, it relieves more energy. Any person wants to tap out and withdraw some of that energy, so recommit it back in. So then you're not going to have two people sitting there going and staring out the window to each other. They didn't do enough for each other, and they didn't recommit to each other over again. I'll share you one little piece of advice. This will be the only thing you'll remember from the whole night, I promise you. And it's probably the most important thing that I could ever share with an audience on this subject. And I'll just share you one little story. It's one of the best pieces of advice I ever received. And I didn't plan to receive this piece of advice, but it came to me. That's what the best things come when you're not expecting them. Shlosha boim b'chesach hadas, the Gemara says. 3 things come when you're not expecting them. Metzia, Mashiach, and Nachash. You know, these 3 things. You know, so you never know. Watch out for surprises. But one time, I came home. I was home for a period of time around dinner time, and it was one of those times. At that time, Kanai Nahara, we have 10 kids, Kanai Nahara, right? But at that time, we had I think 7 or 8 kids, and they were all young. There was like 3 or 4 in diapers. There was a set of twins in there, you know. And it was bath time for some. It was bedtime for others. It was homework time. It was dinner time. It was all happening at the same time, you know. And this one is running around, and that one's making a mess, and that one, you know, and the dinner's on the ceiling. It was a balagan, you know. And while this is all happening, suddenly, you know, it became like, you know, 7 o'clock or whatever, and all of a sudden I hear bump, 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 bump. Now I don't have a driver. But that night, there was an Israeli friend, you know, who was driving. He was taking an Israeli lecture to Queens, and I was going to come along with. So I had a ride coming that night. So I said to my wife, "Sorry, I got to go, dear." you know, and I left. You know, Baruch shepatrani me'on sheshelazeh. You know, like thank God I'm on the other side. You know, I'm gone. So I came down to the car, and who's the other speaker? The other lecturer was an Israeli lecturer. His name is Rabbi Simcha Cohen. I don't know if anybody heard of Rabbi Simcha Cohen. They translated his book and his lectures into English. It's called "What Did You Say?" or "What Did I Say?" or something like that. I don't forget, something like that. It's a very, very nice book about Shalom Bayis. He speaks always about Shalom Bayis. He's got a beautiful white beard, a hadras panim. He's the most lovely man. You know? But we have a communication problem between us because he doesn't speak any English, 0. And my Hebrew, I learned from, not Ulpan, I learned from Mishnayos and Chumash, you know, so I'm speaking what must sound like to the Israeli cab drivers when I go, like Shakespearean English or something like that, you know. We're for out the Shurutim, you know, like, you know, Moshem Cha, you know, like, you know, Manahani Nili. Oh, I'm sorry, that's, you know, like, you know, I'm speaking Gemara to people, they don't know what you're talking about, they realize you're from the moon or something like that, or you're from the Mishnah, from the Mishnayik, you know, well, it doesn't, So I came to Rabbi Simcha Cohen. Oh, manishma, Rabbi Cohen. You know, he said, oh, beseder, Rebleibel, manishma. He says, Rebleibel, kabalta the bracha. Did you get the bracha? And I said, did I bench? Chalti kvar, I ate already. V'achalta v'savata u barachta. You know, okay. And I fled, you know. He said, lo, label, bracha, the bracha. And I said, well, which bracha, Rabbi Cohen? Those Asher Yatzar posters that are, I thought I had one in my pocket there. Those Asher Yatzar posters, you know, with the pictures around them that ubiquitous all over the world. Well, they came out of my office at 10 Wallenberg Circle. In every language, in Spanish and Portuguese and Chinese and Indian and, you know, you name it, you know, and Persian. And I said, oh, so I said, we have plenty where we're going, you know. Hakoba said, Yesh lanu harbe sham, Rabbi, you know, harbe brachot sham, shel asher yatzar, you know. He said, lo, Rabbi, kabbalah da bracha. I said, it's a bracha. He says, mi'ishtacha, from your wife. I said, bracha from me? He said, lama, why? He says, "In a shchina shui b'dor beis shaladam ela b'schus ishto." Ain't a bracha. Bracha means parnasa b'schus ela b'schus ishto. He says, "But Avram Avinu, that he says beglal ishto, because of his wife, he became rich. Avram became rich down in Mitzrayim. Beglal." And the Medrash says over there, "In a shchina, in a bracha. There's no bracha ela b'schus ishto." He says, "How do you expect to be successful, to give a lecture, to give a class, or to do business, to do anything without a bracha from your wife?" I told Rabbi Cohen, we're late. He says to me, we'll wait. This is more important. I said, but he gives me the look. I go, okay. We're in the car discussing for 10 minutes. I go back, you know, up the driveway. I pass by the steps. Okay, you know. I go into the house. I knock before I enter my own house. I walk in. It's a split level, you know, the half a flight up. And as soon as, like, you know, the door opens up and someone came in and just standing there, and the kids come over and they go, Ima Abba's home, you know. My wife, she heard me leave, you know, 10 minutes ago. She comes out with one of the babies wrapped in a towel, you know. And she goes, what is it? What happened? And he goes, oh, I forgot something. So go get it, you know. I said, I can't go get it right now. I have to. Well, I'm here to get it. She goes, what is it? I said, I forgot the bracha. Wife says, we ate about 3 hours ago. You know, what are you doing? I said, Ima, I forgot the bracha. You know. So she goes, because we have all those Asher Yitzhar posters all along the wall. Take whichever language you want, Persian, Hebrew, whichever ones, English, Chinese, whichever ones that you're going to tonight. Or what do you speak? I said, no, Iman, I need your bracha. My wife says, did you lose your job? I told her, I'm self-employed. It's very hard, It's actually very easy. So she goes, have you been drinking? I said, no. She says, you left 10 minutes ago. You come back now, and you're standing over here, and you want my bracha. I said, well, ain't a bracha, shrui b'toch beis shel adam, elo b'schus ishto. Remember, it says that, and it says this over here. And I start quoting, so how can I be successful if I'm going to give a lecture and I don't have your bracha? My wife said, who am I, the CHAZAQ.Rabbi? What do you want from me? I said, no, Ima, please don't torture me. I said, I'm waiting, I want to go, but I know I can't do anything, I can't move without your bracha. So she sees I mean business, so she goes, okay. She says, you should have Kvitzas Haderech getting there. Let's get there quickly. Have Kvitzas Haderech getting back. You should find a Marav while you're there. And she says, and when you're there, she says, the words should come out of your heart. They should enter into the hearts of the people there. It should make a difference in each and every one of their lives and make a difference in the whole world. And I said, Amen. I said, wow, what a bracha. Eza bracha. I said, Ima, the house should get cleaned up magically. The kids should get bathed and into bed, and the homework should get done. And you should have a chance to talk on the phone to your best friend and to read a good book. She says, Amen. Okay. Without you, wish me luck too. Thanks. Thank you. So I went out. It was a great lecture. I came home. Ima, Eza bracha. Wow. Wind in my sails. And now I realize I don't go anywhere without getting that bracha. On the way here, my wife was out before I left, and I didn't get a chance on the road. Ima, thank God for the cell phone. Ima, tini bracha. Give me the bracha. I need the bracha. I can't go anywhere. My kid's going to go for a test for hair to get into yeshiva. He's going to a championship basketball game, whatever. It says going out on a shidduch. Here's the bracha. Abba, give me the bracha. Ima, give me the bracha. We don't go anywhere without the bracha. And the beauty is that you can be together even when you're not together. Because I come back, I'm here, my wife is doing something else. I came back, what a bracha. We were working together. We're together even when we're not together. Beautiful. You're rooting for me and I'm rooting for you, and only because. And it's such an emistic thing. There's one person, I'm not going to mention his name, he's one of the top speakers in the Jewish world today. You're going to look at Torah anytime, his name, he's getting the most hits, he's getting the most. And he tells over, he gave me a tape, he says, I was a megamgem, I couldn't speak, he told me. I'm going to tell you, he said, I couldn't speak. I would stand up, I was tripping all over myself. He says, and then I heard you tell over the story. He says, I went home, I started getting the bracha from my wife. He says, and suddenly I opened up. And I don't go anywhere without getting the bracha from my wife. What a wind in the sails. I said, wow, I did something with my life. I can't believe it. Look at how much he's influencing people. I can't believe it. And I said, because of this idea that I got from Rabbi Cohen. But I'm going to finish up. It says, watch out, it's a double-edged sword, this getting the bracha business. Because it comes with a small price. Because I remember one time, as Chatay Ani Mazkir Hayom, I came home. I was home for about 7 minutes. I think I set a world record, because at that time, I think in 7 minutes, I had 8 kids crying. What are you doing with crayons on the wall? Crayons on the wall? Where's your mother? You want to eat crayons? Red is not cherry. You want to eat crayons? You want to go to your room. I told you, and never hit your brother. That's it. You're going to. Oh, you want to complain? So you stay in there for the rest of your life. You too. He doesn't need a lawyer. Oh, you okay? Come here. Okay, that's it. Now you're going to clean up his mess. I didn't make it. Oh, that's it. You never hit either. 7 minutes. 8 kids crying. Olympian. And then all of a sudden, bom, 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 the honk comes outside. I have another ride coming. I pick up my attaché case. I said, Ima, give me the bracha. And my wife says, what are you speaking about tonight? I said, Chinuch Yeladim. She says, my bracha is, they should see right through you. I said, that's the bracha? She says, that's the bracha for tonight. So in order to get the bracha, we got to be worthy of the bracha. And hopefully when people are worthy of the bracha, we should be willing and able to give the bracha. Thank you very much, everybody.